It's been really challenging, a decade of so much pain and trauma for especially women and girls of the Yazidi community, for so many families who have, still been waiting for their loved ones to be rescued from captivity, for their loved ones to be buried, just like my family. We still have more than 2,000 women and children missing in captivity, including my niece, my nephew, my sister-in-law, my cousins, my friends, neighbors. And we have tens of mass graves yet to be exhumed. And for so many families who have their loved ones, that their remains have been exhumed, but they have not been identified yet. But for the entire community and for the country, there are only a few survivors that have been able to face their abusers in the courtrooms, and that is very sad to know, that it's been 10 years and less than 10 ISIS members have been, held.
That's the point, that at the time, the images of Yazidi women, the stories that were coming out, the horror of women being bought and sold in marketplaces, of women being impregnated, some of them young teenage girls, horrified the world. And then obviously ISIS was overthrown, and yet there is still no accountability or justice for those women who have suffered. In fact, as you say, thousands still remain in captivity.
Well, to be honest, there was no justice and accountability for Yazidi women even before ISIS was thrown away. For example, the coalition, the international coalition that was established to defeat ISIS did not include the rescuing of women and children. They were not included in the whole plan. And yes, ISIS was defeated in 2017, but there were no plan. And until today, we have been asking the UN, the international community, that we know our women and children are out there in Syria, some in Turkey, and even some children in Iraq still. But we have not been able to find support from our own government or the international community.
You must be incredibly frustrated because you have been hailed and people around the world have, told you what they thought you wanted to hear. You've won prizes, you've been celebrated globally, but you know the truth that actually very little is being done in terms of helping the thousands of women who still remain without any form of justice.
It is important to be recognized because you bring, more attention to the cause of, thousands of women and children who are still missing and they can't speak for themselves. So that was something, important. But what people really need is their loved ones to be back. And for my family, for example, no matter how many awards I win, it doesn't matter to them. What matters most to my family is to be able to bring my niece and my nephew and my sister-in-law back home, because we know they're out there. And with accountability, for example, we have been working with, some incredible lawyers like Amal Clooney, with the UN team that was created to collect evidence of ISIS evidence from Iraq, UNITAD, and with thousands of survivors giving their testimonies publicly, risking their lives, and only 8 ISIS members have been held accountable.
On top of all of that, there are stories also of women who made it back, but also faced rejection from their families because they returned, young teenage girls and young women returned suddenly with babies because of the rape that they had endured in captivity.
Yeah, so many women who were, when they were taken, they were like babies, 5, 9 years old. And of course, if you leave them in captivity for 10 years, they will have children. And a handful of them have had children. No Yazidi women has been rejected, but children, yes. And that is something that we have been working with the community, but also with the Iraqi government and with the international community, because these children, there is so much more into why the community is not welcoming them. There is this Iraqi law that says even if the mother is Yazidi, even if the father is ISIS, children must be registered as Muslims. And that's what like scares the families. They're saying, you know, if we welcome the children and maybe in the future their fathers or their families, because we know so many ISIS members just left and they're free out there and they may ask to join their children.
Nadia, just finally, do you remain hopeful that these women will be released from your community, that some form of justice will be reached?
I am hopeful because I know thousands of women did not wait for the world to act and they were able to free themselves on their own. I know they are waiting for us to do something, and I know that, you know, innocent lives, whether it's, you know, in Iraq or in other places, they need to be protected. And I am hopeful, but it's hard to, you know, just we need to act when, you know, with hope. I am hopeful, but I also know that being hopeful alone, it's not going to help them bring back. We need to work together to make sure that we can bring them back to their families, but also to make sure that we can prevent sexual violence in war.